This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
East Coast deluge. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. Storms pummeled parts of Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and Virginia overnight. Roads turned to raging rivers in New York City, and water gushed into the subway system. A state of emergency declared in New Jersey, where people were plucked by boat from flooded homes.
I've seen flooding, never this bad.
It's so scary, and it happened like so quickly.
It's flooding everywhere. There's so much rain. It's too much.
Correspondent Dick Brennan in hard-hit Scotch Plains, New Jersey.
Rafts made their way through the streets, scooping up people with no way out. Others were brought in by front loader.
Hazy, hot, and humid. The weather watch words for us the next few days. Temperatures will be tickling 90 degrees with uggy, muggy, and buggy conditions. It is air that you wear, says meteorologist Kevin Williams. His forecast is coming up. Wildfires continue to burn at the north rim of the Grand Canyon. That natural wonder is now shut down to tourists for the rest of summer. A lightning strike over the 4th of July is what sparked the flames, which have now consumed 60,000 acres in northern Arizona. President Trump in Pittsburgh today, taking part in the first ever Pennsylvania Energy and Innovation Summit. That event at Carnegie Mellon University will feature industry leaders in artificial intelligence. Pennsylvania Senator Dave McCormick.
We need to win the battle for AI innovation in America, and Pennsylvania is at the center of it.
The president today will announce $70 billion in new investments for data processing centers, power and grid infrastructure projects, and AI training schools. The inflation rate is the highest it's been since February.
We are seeing the impact of tariffs starting to push up the inflation rate.
Business analyst Jill Schlesinger says consumer prices were up 2.7% in June.
We see it most specifically in the food part of this survey. Coffee prices up by 2.2% in just 1 month. Citrus prices up 2.3%.
President Trump threatening to impose even more tariffs on our trading partners starting next month. Mr. Trump has given Russian ruler Vladimir Putin an ultimatum: make peace with Ukraine within 50 days or face the consequences. The commander-in-chief says the Russian strongman is not serious about ending this war.
My conversations with him are always very pleasant, very lovely conversation. And then the missiles go off that night.
The president says if Russia does not agree to a ceasefire soon, he will impose crippling tariffs on Moscow's trading partners. Influential pastor and radio host John MacArthur has died. He was senior pastor of the Grace Community Church in Los Angeles for more than 56 years. MacArthur authored 150 books, which have been translated into 40 different languages around the world. His Grace to You radio program has been on the air for over 40 years on more than 1,000 radio stations, including this one. John MacArthur was 86. What caused the fatal fire in Fall River? Investigators are still searching for answers at an assisted living facility in Massachusetts. 9 were killed, dozens injured when flames raced through the building late Sunday.
The flames came quickly, they came violently, and to add on top of that, many of the residents here are elderly. They are disabled.
Correspondent Tom Hansen says most of the victims died from smoke inhalation. Education Secretary Linda McMahon is applauding the U.S. Supreme Court's 6-3 decision that paves the way for steep cuts at the U.S. Education Department.
This lifts the handcuffs off of what we've been trying to do, which really is to get education back to the states where it does belong. The best education is that closest to the student.
The court's action yesterday allows for the elimination of 1,400 jobs at the U.S. Education Department, which, by the way, was founded in 1979 by President Jimmy Carter. They were playing long ball last night at Truist Park in Atlanta, and when it was over, a catcher for the Seattle Mariners was the winner of the MLB Home Run Derby. All right, there's the number. Cal Raleigh, 18 balls. Raleigh has been the league leader in home runs this year, 38 to be exact. Heading into the break, he becomes the first catcher to ever win the home run derby.
It means the world, I could have hit 0 home runs and I would have had just as much fun, so I just can't believe it won.
Tonight, the American League and the National League All-Stars will do battle in the 95th edition of the Midsummer Classic. Paul Skeens of the Pittsburgh Pirates gets the start for the National League. Detroit Fireballer Tarek Scuba will toe the rubber for the American League. Still to come on the Noon Report, a Tuesday edition. Cycling the Erie Canal, police mental health bill, and portrait of a graduate.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams, looking at a hot and in places hazy afternoon, but the risk of thunderstorms will be confined to only a small part of our area. I'll have more in the complete forecast, and that's coming up in 10 minutes.
All right, Kevin, we will see you then. Let's check the stories making news where you live next. All across New York and Pennsylvania. Newark Valley, New York, decimated by flash flooding late Sunday. And that cleanup continues today in that Tioga County community.
It was probably about a foot and a half of water on the roads.
My heart bleeds for everybody who gets impacted by it.
Several feet of water inundated basements throughout the village.
The rain coming down impacted Slauson Creek and devastating to the homes that are on Rock Street and on Brook Street.
The mayor of Newark Valley telling Spectrum News no deaths or injuries were reported from Sunday's storms, but the damage, he says, is significant. Pennsylvania also recovering from flash flooding caused by torrential downpours this week. Lycoming County farmer Jim Parsons telling WNEP that his crops are underwater in fields that look more like lakes today.
The farm itself is good, the buildings, but quite a bit of crop damage. It's definitely a hit. The next few days we'll be assessing that and see where we're at, see if the water stays down, what we might be able to salvage. So that'll take a few days to figure out.
The high water forced the closure of several roads in Sullivan and Lycoming counties yesterday. Police have released the names of 2 people who were hit and killed by a dump truck near Syracuse University last week. They were struck at the intersection of East Adams Street and University Avenue. Both victims were international students with the College of Engineering and Computer Science. The driver involved stayed at the scene. No charges have been filed. There's a nationwide shortage of truck drivers, and transportation expert Brian Michelle at SUNY Niagara says that shortage has a major impact on the U.S. economy.
Everything that you buy off the shelf at the store was brought to you there by a trucker.
According to the American Trucking Association, the industry is short some 80,000 drivers, and that gap is expected to double by the start of the next decade.
I think it's like any other industry out there. What you see happening is the baby boomer generation retiring, and we can't stand up drivers fast enough to step in and take their place.
Michelle says experienced truck drivers can often command a 6-figure salary. The New York Board of Regents gave final approval yesterday to new graduation requirements in the Empire State. It's called Portrait of a Graduate, and it'll replace the Regents exam starting in 2029. The goal is to make learning more creative, flexible, and engaging so students can face challenges in the so-called real world. U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer took part in the ribbon-cutting ceremony yesterday for a first in the country semiconductor technology center located in Albany, the New York State capital.
In a few years, 1/4 of all the advanced chips made in America will be done within 4 or 5 mile stretch from Buffalo to Rochester to Syracuse to Utica here to the capital region. And the research for that and one of the magnets for that is right here in Albany.
The New York Democrat says this technology center cements the upstate region as the epicenter of America's computer chip manufacturing industry. If you're car shopping in Pennsylvania, Sundays are still off limits, but that could be changing. State Representative Tim Brennan wants to end the ban on Sunday car sales. He's calling for a bill that would allow dealerships to open on Sundays, a practice which is currently prohibited under one of Pennsylvania's few remaining blue laws. A New York assemblyman wants to reverse the state's raise the age law. Under this law, minors cannot be prosecuted as adults. Republican Pat Klaczynski says such leniency, however, has led to disaster. Just last week, 3 teens under the age of 16 led cops on a high-speed chase in a stolen vehicle through Cheektowaga.
When a teenager chooses to steal a car and drive it through a public park, it is a criminal act and there must be consequences.
He cites an upward trend in violent youthful offenses since Raise the Age became the law in New York. A first-in-the-nation police mental health bill is making its way through the New York legislature. This bill provides up to 20 days of paid leave for troopers who are involved in use-of-force incidents, which result in serious injury or death.
It's acknowledging the complexities of the job we ask the troopers to do every single day and ensure they are equipped, not just with the tools to respond, but the resources to recover.
Charles Murphy with the Police Benevolent Association says cops experience double the rate of PTSD as civilians do. On average, a police officer will experience about 170 traumatic experiences during his or her career. Trooper retirements have grown by 500% the past 20 years. Several hundred cyclists of all ages are participating in the 27th annual Cycle the Erie Canal Bike Tour. Cyclists from 37 states are riding 400 miles this week along the Erie Canalway Trail. They'll average about 60 miles a day. This year, by the way, marks the Erie Canal's 200th birthday. That race will end Sunday in Albany. Sports is next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, I'm not sure how you can have controversy in the Home Run Derby, but they had it last night. In the first round, Brent Rooker tied Cal Raleigh with 17 home runs. Rooker thought he was going to have a swing-off against Raleigh to determine who would advance to the semifinals. Rooker was even loosening up for the swing-off when Raleigh walked over and told him he had been eliminated. Why? Because Raleigh hit the longer home run of the two at 470.61 feet. Rooker's longest, 470.53 feet. That's per StatCast. And I'm thinking, really? 8/100th of a foot? Can we trust StatCast to be that accurate? And a difference that small should fall within the margin of error. There should have been a swing off there, but it didn't happen. They played by the rules that I think need to change. Raleigh then went on to win the Home Run Derby, and it was especially special to him. His dad was pitching, his brother was catching. Junior Caminero lost in the finals to Raleigh by an 18-15 score. Well, we move on to Major League Baseball's All-Star Game in Atlanta. The American League looking to make it 2 in a row in their 11th win in their last 12. Pirates ace Paul Skeens is slated to start for the National League. Tarek Skubal will pull the rubber for the American League. I'll tell you, this Midsummer Classic has really been a highlight reel for the American League since 1997. The AL is 22-4-1 against the National League. That is a look at sports.
All right, Randy Man, thank you kindly. Still to come on the Noon Report for a Tuesday. Trump in the Steel City, remembering John MacArthur and the downside of marijuana.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stone Street. Before it debuted late last month, Disney boasted that its newest animated film, Elio, quote, continues Pixar's tradition of crafting films that resonate across generations. But even after several iterations and attempts to hook test groups, Elio earned just $21 million during its domestic opening weekend, which was the worst debut in Pixar history and a huge disappointment after more than $200 million was spent making the movie. Elio, the title character, is a space fanatic with an active imagination. He finds himself on a cosmic misadventure where he must form bonds with alien life forms, navigate a crisis of intergalactic proportions, and along the way, discover who he's truly meant to be. But that was not the original storyline. According to sources reported by The Hollywood Reporter, the movie was supposed to be centered on a queer-coded 11-year-old protagonist with subtle details included that hinted at a same-sex crush. Later versions of the film softened Elio's homosexual identity, but continued to make personality the primary driver of the storyline. So, for example, an early version reportedly shown to the production crew portrayed Elio collecting trash on the beach and turning it into homemade apparel. And that included a pink tank top, which, according to multiple insiders, was to portray the character as a queer-coded character and reflect original director Adrian Molina's identity as an openly gay filmmaker. But even after all of the changes were made, the movie still failed to work. After a test screening held in Arizona in the summer of 2023, the audience was asked how many would watch it in theaters. According to reports, and I quote, "Not a single hand was raised." Now, a group of gay Pixar employees that go by the name Pix Pride are blaming the poor box office showing on the fact that the storyline was changed and stripped of its underlying gay themes. As one Pixar staffer put it, quote, "You remove this big key piece, which is all about identity, and Elio just becomes about totally nothing," end quote. Well, the staffer's close to the truth. Pixar did try to rescue the movie from a focus on gay identity, especially in light of the recent failures of other Pixar movies, but that was just one particularly annoying form of a larger problem. And that problem is the perpetual insistence on postmodern notions of identity that just at the end of the day do not replace good storytelling. Now, of course, identity discovery and formation can be essential aspects of the best stories. The redemptive narrative of Scripture, which culminates in the work of God to redeem the world that He made, is built on a notion of identity that humans are made in the image of God. And that explains both their significance within the created order and just how serious the consequences of the fall are. But in the end, the story of Scripture is compelling because of redemption and renewal, how the sacrifice of God redeems and restores us to who He always intended us to be. But in a postmodern vision, identity is self-determined. It's constructed. Everything else about reality has to conform to our own notions about who we are. Now, the Bible, of course, is filled with captivating stories, from the epic tales of the patriarchs to Jesus' miraculous ministry. They not only reveal God's character, they also reveal to us along the way what it truly means to be human, created, and redeemed in His image. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint. Today's Breakpoint was co-authored by Bob Dittmer. If you're a fan of Breakpoint, leave us a review wherever you download your podcast. And for a version of this commentary that you can print out or share with others, go to colsoncenter.org/radio.
Thank you, John. Outside we go next. Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life weather forecast for this afternoon. Sunshine, hazy in places, a couple of scattered thunderstorms in central and eastern Pennsylvania. High temps 80s and low 90s, dropping back into the 60s and low 70s tonight with some starlight. Partial sunshine, steamy tomorrow, a couple of thunderstorms in the afternoon, 80s and low 90s. Just showers and thunderstorms around tomorrow night into Thursday as it remains humid.
All right, air that you wear, as Kevin likes to say. Thank you. The weather is our top story today, Tuesday, the 15th of July. Drenching rain inundating the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states last night. Correspondent Rob Marciano.
The rainfall came fast and furious, flooding roads and leaving drivers with little time to escape.
Within like 15, 20 minutes, it went from just a little stream of water and then it just started flooding over.
More than half a foot of rain falling in Scotch Plains, New Jersey, leading to dramatic water rescues. First responders using rafts to rescue people from the flooded streets. Rescue crews wading through knee-deep water to save a man trapped in rushing water. Others were carried to dry land in a front loader.
I've never seen flooding like this.
Michael Vargas says he was trapped in his car for more than an hour. And in Westchester, New York, cars left abandoned as floodwater reached the roofs of their vehicles. Wow. In Pennsylvania, puddles of murky water swamping the streets in Mount Joy after 7.5 inches fell, drenching the area.
No joke.
And in Manhattan, more than 2.5 inches of rain inundating the city streets. The floodwaters pouring into some subway stations, even into the train cars, forcing some passengers to kneel in their seats to stay dry as they watch the water surge onto the platform.
The north rim of the Grand Canyon will be closed to tourists for the rest of summer as firefighters continue to battle two major wildfires. Lightning strikes sparked both those fires, which have charred over 60,000 acres and destroyed 70 structures in northern Arizona. President Trump talks artificial intelligence today during a technology summit at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. He wants to invest $70 billion into AI data centers, infrastructure projects, and training programs. Pennsylvania Senator Dave McCormick says the Keystone State is leading the way in AI research and development.
And it's going to bring thousands, tens of thousands of jobs to working families across Pennsylvania.
McCormick will join Democratic Senator John Fetterman and Governor Josh Shapiro at the first ever Pennsylvania Energy and Innovation Summit this afternoon in the Steel City. The commander-in-chief turning up the pressure on Russian ruler Vladimir Putin. The White House is threatening new tariffs on Moscow if it does not reach a peace deal soon with Ukraine.
I'm disappointed in President Putin because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to get there. I go home, I tell the First Lady, and I spoke to Vladimir today. We had a wonderful conversation. She said, "Oh, really? Another city was just hit." At a certain point, ultimately talk doesn't talk. It's got to be action.
Trump's giving Putin 50 days to back down or face penalties designed to cripple the Russian economy. In a 6-3 decision, the U.S. Supreme Court has given the White House the authority to fire 1,400 of the 4,000 workers who make up the U.S. Education Department. That government agency was founded in 1979 during the Jimmy Carter administration. President Trump wants to dismantle the U.S. Education Department and return education policy to the states. 3 rookie astronauts are back on Earth after a successful splashdown off the coast of California.
For the past 3 weeks, first-time astronauts from Hungary, Poland, and India have been working and living aboard the International Space Station. Axiom Space arranged the flight using SpaceX technology that ended with a splashdown of a capsule called Grace off a foggy California coast.
SpaceX copies splashdown and stable 1. On behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
It was the 4th crew mission launched by Axiom, which was led by retired NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson, who in her career has spent nearly 700 days in space. I'm Rory O'Neill.
Mega church pastor John MacArthur has died at the age of 86. The influential theologian was hospitalized recently with pneumonia. MacArthur pastored the Grace Community Church in Los Angeles for 56 years. His Grace to You radio program aired on 1,000 radio stations, including this one, for over 40 years. Robot umps will be calling the balls and strikes at tonight's All-Star game in Atlanta. Each team will get 2 challenges and will retain their challenge if they're successful. Fox Sports baseball analyst John Smoltz.
I like the process of challenging right now. I would not like the process of every pitch being called that way because hitting would be almost impossible with the velocity and the way that guys can spin the baseball. So a challenge system, I think, is a good way to break it in. Okay. Eventually, if you ever go to the automatic strike zone, you'd have to change the strike zone to give everybody a chance to hit the kind of velocity that we're seeing today.
Big League Baseball's been tinkering with automated balls and strikes for more than half a decade. This ABS system, as it's known, could be adopted as soon as next year in the major leagues. Next at noon, a conversation with Michael Geer. He is the president of the Pennsylvania Family Institute, and he's talking to us about important policy issues at stake at the state capitol in Harrisburg. Here's some of our conversation. I want to just start with Senate Bill 9. It is moving now in the House thanks to Republican Representative Barb Gleim. She has unveiled what they call a discharge resolution to force a floor vote on this measure that would effectively ban trans athletes from girls' sports in the Commonwealth. Do you anticipate the House will ever hold a vote on this matter?
Well, it remains to be seen. This discharge petition has the opportunity to get it to a floor vote. Unfortunately, in the House rules, there are options that can be taken by the Democrat leadership to continue to stall. Yeah. They just want to avoid a up or down vote on it because they don't want to be on the record voting against something that is so popular with the public.
Yeah, we often refer to it on this program as an 80-20 issue. 80 meaning that's the percentage of the American people that want something like this. 20 who are like Gavin Newsom kind of speak out of both sides of their mouth on the matter. He even said this week that while he thinks it's unfair that biological boys are allowed to compete against girls, he also called it belittling to the trans community. The U.S. Supreme Court, Michael, is going to weigh in on this matter. If you would explain a little bit what this case is about, and will this have any bearing on what's happening right now in Pennsylvania?
Well, with the efforts that are happening at the Supreme Court, I think it will have a bearing on what happens in Pennsylvania. There are still some pockets of resistance here in Pennsylvania in terms of what the policy should be in local school districts and colleges and universities. We do have the famous situation now with the University of Pennsylvania apologizing for that whole William/Leah Thomas episode on the women's swim team.
Yeah, and the court will in the fall take up this case. This has to do with similar bans that they're trying to get in Pennsylvania in a couple other states, but we'll keep an eye on that one. I want to move on to another issue that you're paying particular attention to. And just recently, Senators Dan Laughlin, a Republican, and Sharif Street, a Democrat, introduced another measure to legalize adult use marijuana in the Commonwealth. This is happening, Michael, as the budget battle continues. Any chance that this might get a vote in the Senate? And I know the governor is keen on this too. Where do things stand when it comes to this issue in Pennsylvania?
Well, if you set a marker down today or this week, you'd say, no, there's not much of a chance of the bill being moved in the Pennsylvania Senate right now. But as the budget standoff drags on in through the dog days of summer, this is the time when we see real mischief happen. And suddenly lawmakers who are longing to get home feel the pressure from the lobbyists, from the marijuana industry. They feel the pressure from the governor that they just say, oh, let's just go ahead and do it. It's inevitable anyway. And that's why it's so important for the voice of the people who understand the concerns with this proposal to make their voice known.
Yeah.
This is a terrible particular bill, especially I'll just point out that this particular bill does not allow for any local opt-outs. So if the marijuana industry wants to put a pot shop in your neighborhood and the popular position in the people in that community or neighborhood or that borough or township or whatever don't want it, they have no ability to say no.
Yeah.
And so that's just an example of the kind of pressure that's going to be put on local communities to embrace this should it move forward.
Yeah, and your colleague Dan Barkowiak pointed out to us recently that for every dollar that pot produces in Pennsylvania, it will cost $5 in societal ills. You know, the impact this would have on the healthcare industry, on drug driving, on workplace safety. So those who are saying, hey, this is good from an economic standpoint, even that is fallacy if they go forth with this, correct?
Absolutely so. And the other thing to point out is that in this bill, it allows for the high-potency marijuana products that are in gummies and candies and all sorts of things that are designed to attract young people. You know, back in the 70s era, the Vietnam era of marijuana, the potency level of the hallucinogenic component of marijuana was in the single digits. This bill will allow up to 90% of that psychoactive drug in the marijuana products. It's terrible and it's addictive and it's a gateway drug to other worse situations. And when we have the opioid epidemic happening, we don't need another gateway into that activity.
Yeah, and it all hinges on the Senate. I know even in the House they tried this. It didn't get very far, even that bill, not because they didn't want it, just the way it was structured. How many votes? I mean, how much wiggle room do you have here? I mean, it's going to come down to just a handful of votes, correct?
It really is, and that's why the voice of the people is so vitally important. The lobbying effort by big marijuana to push this, that's happened in so many other states where the just overwhelming power of that lobby gets it over the finish line, and we need the voice of the people here in Pennsylvania to help stave off what those lobbyists want to make happen.
That is Michael Geer at the Pennsylvania Family Institute in Harrisburg. This is the Noon Report on Family Life.
Well, very good afternoon to all. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. There is still a front draped over us. helping yesterday to generate some torrential rains in parts of eastern Pennsylvania. The front is weaker now, and any thunderstorms will be more spotty. The expectation is storms will be on the increase, though, later tomorrow night, with another front coming in. That front should pave the way, though, for clearer, drier conditions heading into the start of the upcoming weekend. For this afternoon, sunshine, hazy in places, a couple of scattered thunderstorms in central and eastern Pennsylvania. High temps 80s and low 90s, dropping back into the 60s and low 70s tonight with some starlight. Partial sunshine, steamy tomorrow, a couple of thunderstorms in the afternoon, 80s and low 90s. Showers and thunderstorms around tomorrow night into Thursday as it remains humid.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin Williams. Cranking up the AC for sure these next few days. And finally from us at noon today, it's downsizing with a heart. Today is definitely one of those days where it's better to give than receive.
Imagine a day when you could get rid of clutter, show somebody that you care, gift small things to strangers, and generally make the world a better place. Yes, this day does exist, as July 15th is National Give Something Away Day. The day was established in 2015 by Linda Eden Hall Folker because she believed the world needed a day to focus on giving to friends, family, and the less fortunate, for mindful consumerism, and for being more aware of our carbon footprint. Giving is a simple act to brighten up somebody's day, and at times really brings about positive change. Whether it's something small like giving a compliment, giving your friend a jacket you no longer wear, or donating things to the less fortunate, these little moments can have a big impact on the world. In a time when the whole world could use a little more compassion, take time today to give something away and brighten another person's day. Brian Query, Family Life News.
All right, Brian, thank you very much for that reminder. Yeah, it is better to give than receive. And that's our world, the world we live in. Tuesday, July 15th. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.